Welcome back to the channel, Den members. This video is another one of those videos in the vein of a restoration project. Forgive me if there's a little bit of an echo. I was planning on being outside for this video. Unfortunately, it has gotten cold again in Iowa and there's snow outside. Several months ago, I was at a gun show and there was a gentleman selling some old casings, old ordnance that had been demilled. Among those pieces was a 90mm tank shell from a Pershing. The Pershing tank was introduced late in World War II as a heavier tank than the Sherman. Because money has a tendency to burn a hole in my pocket, I decided I was going to buy it and do something with it. I finally decided I was going to take a shot at getting rid of all the corrosion and all the tarnish on the brass and get it restored to the original brass finish. The first several clips you're gonna see here are when I really wasn't even sure that I was going to be doing a video on this, but I did want to get a video documentation of the process if it turned out really well. Spoiler alert, it has. So we're gonna go back in time just a little bit and I'll meet you back here in a couple minutes. My first step to removing the corrosion and tarnish from the casing was to place the casing inside a large tub of mine, filling it with water, and then adding 2 pounds of oxalic acid. I want to make it clear that I did not do any proper research on proper proportions for oxalic acid to water ratios. Please do this if you're going to do this. I then let the acid solution sit for several days to work on the casing. All right. Oh, that's got an interesting color. Let's go ahead and neutralize this. This could get really messy. Whoa, there she goes. Science! Only after the fact did I have the thought that, you know, maybe this could eat through this plastic bin I'm using. We're okay. All right, in the fading light, I just wanted to give an update here. This is actually kind of awesome how well it's turned out. There is a little bit of corrosion just built up that I'm gonna scrape off at the bottom, but this is what it looks like after I got it out of the oxalic acid solution. That is considerably better looking. I know it's still a little more copper looking than brass, but already that is looking so much better. So much of that tarnish has been removed.
Days later.
As you can see here, the casing actually is looking pretty good. I don't know if it's just me going crazy a little bit, but after having sat out for a couple days out of the solution and drying off completely, it almost looks more brass than when it first came out. I mean, maybe I just needed to wipe off some of that extra dust and build up from the solution, but it's looking considerably more brass-like. I did do a couple little test spots here and there, both with steel wool and then this gun cleaner compound. Still haven't looked up what this is. Sorry. So what I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do a once or twice over with this, just to get more of the heavier deposits off. And then I'm going to switch over to the finer steel wool. And this is a pretty soft steel wool. So if I get any scratches into the casing, I think I might be able to buff it out a bit more with this. As for the final finish I'm going for, I want it to look more like your brass casings from regular firearms. I don't want this to look supremely refined. Ultimately, I just want this thing looking like it's ready to go. Not bad. Honestly, looks really good. All right, I'm gonna do the neck and then I'm gonna wipe this down before I move on to the steel wool. Not bad at all for a 71-year-old piece of spent artillery brass. I think that's about as good as I want to get this. Yeah, I could definitely get it polished and mirror perfect, but that is incredible. But we're not quite done. While I've been working on this, I've been 3D printing this. Not being an expert on World War II ordnance, a lot of the pictures that I was finding of the tank rounds that the Pershing tank fired were very similar in shape to, let's say, a 30-06 bullet. So with that, I did a 3D scan of one of my 30-06 rounds that I used to reload for my M1, and I sized it up to a 90 millimeter. Is it correct? Probably not. But is it close? Absolutely. And I know what a lot of you all depraved souls out there are thinking when you see this. Shame on you. Off camera, I did do some work at resizing the neck. It has gotten beaten up over the years, so even this won't quite fit quite properly, but it shouldn't be too difficult to get this seated inside the casing. Before I do any of that though, I'm going to get this painted. I've decided I'm gonna do a kind of just flat metallic paint job on this. I'm sure everyone knows how to spray paint, so we'll be back once this is done. All right, got that painted. It turned out pretty well. In some ways, I'm kind of seeing this as a placeholder in the event that maybe, just maybe at some gun show or what have you, I'll be able to find a 90 millimeter Pershing demilled tank round. But for now, I think this will do just fine. The trick at this point is going to be getting this seated inside the neck. I'm going to try and resize the neck a little bit with this failed print here. Problem is now I won't be able to get that out. Nice. There we go. And there you have it. Something that I got from a gun show that looked a total mess has been restored to a reasonably, I say that very loosely, a reasonable facsimile of what it looked like back in 1953. I'm not entirely convinced on the color of the projectile here. Drop a comment down below on what color you think this should actually be. If it needs some sort of markings on it, let me know. I'd be happy to do that, especially since this is just a 3D printed projectile. We can do whatever we want and it's very low risk, very low cost. Of course, I'm most pleased with the restoration work on the brass casing because this was very low effort. One thing I am gonna do is find some really light oil and do a very light coating on the casing just to try and keep it preserved. I thought about lacquering it, but I don't want it to get that shiny sheen or anything. I gotta say that actually looks really cool. Now I'm just gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna put it. That's gonna do it for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this kind of restoration project I took on. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the Phantom Llama's Den for future content. As always, don't take life too seriously and make it a great day.